There is a stillness you have long forgotten, a sacred hush beneath the pulse of striving, beneath the clamor of wanting, beneath the endless rehearsals of becoming. It waits for you like a quiet dawn waits for no applause. And in this stillness you are not reaching, you are remembering. Remembering what it feels like to live not from lack but from completion. Not from the noise of desire, but from the hush of fulfillment already made manifest. To live from the wish fulfilled is to step into the stream of creation not as a beggar but as a co-creator. Not to plead with life, but to align with the song it is already singing through you. The soul does not beg for what it knows it already holds. The soul closes its eyes, breathes in the miracle of now, and smiles because it knows the outer world is merely a mirror reflecting the frequency of your inner belief. When you live from the wish fulfilled, you do not chase love, you become it. You do not strive for peace, you breathe it. You do not search for abundance, you express it with every thought you allow and every emotion you welcome. You do not pray as one in poverty, you pray as one who trusts that your very longing is already a form of arrival. You do not ask as if you are separate from what you seek, you become the embodiment of the answered prayer. The wish is not something you wait for, the wish is something you be. This is not a game of pretending. It is the highest form of truth. Because all things created were first imagined, everything seen was once unseen. Your deepest desires are not delusions, they are divine seeds planted in you by a source that wants to experience itself through you. And the soil of those seeds is your consciousness. Tend it not with worry, but with faith. Not with fear, but with felt knowing. You don't manifest by needing. You manifest by knowing that you already are. The Tao whispers, act without striving. And yet, the world shouts back, hustle, climb, conquer. But the soul does not conquer. The soul remembers. It remembers that the kingdom is not in a far-off someday, but in this breath, in this sacred now. Jesus did not say, the kingdom will come. He said, the kingdom is within you. And to live from the wish fulfilled is to open that kingdom gate, not tomorrow, not when the conditions are perfect, but now, in the midst of your ordinary breath. It requires a quiet rebellion, a rebellion against the belief that you are incomplete, a rebellion against the narrative that you must strive to be worthy. To live from the wish fulfilled is to dissolve the illusion of time, to say I am instead of I will be. To declare with your being that what you long for is already moving through you, shaping your world, not because you forced it, but because you believed it was so. The ego waits, the ego calculates, the ego hesitates until it sees proof. But the soul creates the proof by believing without seeing. The soul is the knowing before the evidence. It is the music before the sound. The soul walks as if the path has already been laid, because it has. So walk, not toward your dream, but from it. Let your feet feel the ground, not of seeking, but of sacred fulfillment. Speak from the place where it is already done. Not because you are delusional, but because your reality is born from the invisible. Your thoughts are architects. Your feelings are sculptors. Your attention is the sacred chisel carving destiny from formless potential. This is not about faking. This is about remembering. Remembering that life responds not to your wish, but to your belief. And belief is not a sentence, it is a state. It is the atmosphere of your inner world. It is the lens through which you see. And when you shift that lens from someday to now, from maybe to already, the universe reshapes itself to reflect your conviction. Do not wait for the world to change before you feel joy. Feel joy and watch the world rearrange. Do not wait for the love to arrive before you open your heart. Open your heart and love will come running. Do not postpone your peace. Be the peace now and let the storm calm itself in your presence. This is how the masters lived, not as victims of circumstance, but as creators of vibration. They walked among men but listened to God. They saw the unseen and believed it real. They lived as if the divine was not outside of them, but within every cell, every breath, every quiet moment of trust. Rumi said, what you seek is seeking you. But the deeper truth is this: what you seek is already you. You are not apart from your vision, you are the vessel through which it is made visible. The dream is not separate, it is encoded into your soul. Your longing is the invitation. Your faith is the key. Your embodiment is the door flung wide open to let the miracle step through. So let go of the need to see it before you believe it. That is not how spirit moves. Spirit waits for you to align, to feel as if, to speak as though, to live from the end, to become the echo of your own answered prayer. You do not need more striving. You need more stillness. You need more sacred knowing. You need to walk into each day with the quiet power of someone who knows that the script is already written, and your only task is to trust the author. Imagine the flower questioning if it will bloom. It never does. It opens because it trusts the sun. You too are meant to open, not by force, but by faith. Not by demanding, but by allowing. Allow yourself to be the place where the wish is already fulfilled. Feel it in your breath, in your posture, in your presence. And then live as if you are the one who already holds the treasure, not because you found it, but because you realized you are it. The mind will argue, the world will doubt, but the soul knows. And when you let the soul lead, mountains move, doors open, synchronicity becomes your language. You stop trying to make life happen and instead allow life to flow through you with ease, with grace, with the quiet power of divine certainty. The wish fulfilled is not far. It is here. It is not something to reach. It is something to rest in. The moment you stop grasping, you start receiving. The moment you release the struggle, you become magnetic. The moment you live from the inside out, the outside rearranges itself in holy response. You were never meant to beg for your destiny. You were meant to embody it, to radiate it, to become so saturated with the vibration of your fulfilled life that life itself cannot help but yield to your frequency. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not lacking. You are simply being called to remember you are the fulfillment. You are the miracle in motion. You are the answered prayer walking upright in skin. Let that remembrance shape you. Let it humble you. Let it lift you beyond the old identity of need into the sacred power of presence. Let every breath be a proclamation. It is done. It is here. I am it. And so it is. When you begin to dwell, not in the yearning, but in the essence of fulfillment itself, a subtle shift unfolds, unseen by the eyes, yet undeniable to the heart. You are no longer bound by the need for evidence. You are moved instead by an inner rhythm, a divine cadence, whispering that the universe is already answered in the invisible before your lips ever parted in request. And in this sacred inner knowing, you cease to perform life, you begin to embody it. You see, the universe does not respond to pleading, it responds to alignment. It dances to the vibration of your deepest assumption, not your outer declarations. What you assume to be true within you becomes the blueprint life follows without. This is not about forcing outcomes, but about becoming the soil from which those outcomes naturally arise. The oak does not strain to grow, it simply remains rooted in its own potential. Likewise, when you become anchored in the frequency of already having, life grows through you without resistance. To live from the wish fulfilled is to shed the skin of doubt, not by argument, but by remembrance. Remembrance that you are not a bystander in your life's unfolding, but the original artist. Each thought you nurture is a brushstroke. Each belief is a color. And the canvas you paint upon is infinite, eternal, alive with possibility. Let your imagination no longer be the place where you hide from reality, but where you meet it halfway. Let it be the sacred altar where the formless takes shape. For imagination, when fused with unwavering belief, becomes the womb of all that is born into form. The mind may reason, but the soul envisions. And vision, clear, felt, and trusted, becomes the bridge between the now and the already manifested. Release the notion that you must understand every step. Understanding is not a prerequisite for becoming. The river does not need to know the path to the ocean. It flows anyway, guided by something deeper than thought. So too, your wish fulfilled does not require you to map the journey. It asks only that you trust the current, that you surrender the how and abide in the vibration of the already done. And what is that vibration, you ask? It is peace. Not the passive kind, but the potent stillness of a soul that no longer negotiates with fear. It is gratitude not for what may come, but for what already is in essence. It is a joy not based on evidence, but rooted in the knowing that the universe cannot contradict the truth of your being. What is affirmed with the soul becomes shaped by the world. There is a sacred discipline in this way of being, a quiet mastery. For the world may still swirl with contradiction. You may still face moments of doubt, flashes of the old self rising in resistance. But when your inner temple is built on truth, those moments become waves washing against a rock that does not move. You no longer collapse into circumstance. You stand as the circumstance begins to bend in response to your inner reality. This is not arrogance, it is reverence. Reverence for the divinity that flows through you, the same divinity that carved mountains and birthed stars. You are not separate from that source. You are an extension of its intention. And when you walk as if the divine is living through you, because it is, your every step becomes sacred ground, your every word a vibration that echoes across eternity. Living from the wish fulfilled is not a technique, it is a return to the native tongue of your soul, a return to the home you never truly left, only forgot. And as you dwell more and more in that remembered truth, the old illusions of waiting, wanting, and withering begin to dissolve like shadows in morning light. You realize you were never waiting for life to begin. It has always been waiting for you to show up as the one who already knows the outcome. So walk as if you are whole, because you are. Speak as one who is loved beyond measure, because you are. Create as one who cannot fail, because failure is merely the voice of an old identity you no longer inhabit. Allow the vibration of fulfillment to be your resting place, not your destination. And watch how the world, slowly at first, then all at once, reshapes itself around your unwavering truth. For you are not here to hope for miracles. You are here to be one. And when you live as the miracle you once chased, the very texture of your life changes. Time bends, not in hours or minutes, but in meaning. The days are no longer weighed by what is missing, but enriched by what is present. You no longer mark time by accomplishments or validations, but by the deep, sacred exhale that comes from simply knowing you are aligned. The wish is not coming, it has come. And it is living through you now, in your gaze, your gestures, your gentle assurance that all is well, even when appearances argue otherwise. Do not mistake this inner knowing for denial. It is not blindness, it is vision. To live from the wish fulfilled is to see with the eyes of the infinite, not the eyes of the temporary. You begin to look at what is and softly affirm, this too is part of it. Even the seeming delay, even the unanswered prayer, even the ache that sometimes returns like an old echo, it is all part of the tapestry of becoming. And when you trust the whole, you no longer fear the pieces. There is something unshakable about a soul who has tasted the future within the present. They do not argue for proof. They do not plead for permission. They simply become, not loudly, not dramatically, but with the quiet, grounded certainty of one who knows that reality, in all its forms, is malleable. The clay of creation responds not to demand, but to devotion. Let your devotion be to truth, not as concept, but as living presence. Let it be your daily bread, the silent prayer behind your every step. I am already what I once thought I needed to become. I am not a seeker, I am a seer. And what I see within me, I call forth without. Feel how the heart responds to such clarity. There is no rush in this way of being, no panic, no lack, only a deep returning. A remembering that your destiny was never meant to be chased, it was meant to be embodied. And embodiment begins not in action, but in consciousness. It begins when you stop trying to become and start being. From that stillness, action flows not as effort, but as expression. The doing arises from the being. The phone call is made, the door is opened, the hand is extended, but all from a place of knowing, not needing. And that energy changes everything. It turns routine into revelation. It turns each encounter into an altar. It turns your life from a race into a ceremony. This is what it means to live from the wish fulfilled, not to shout your desires into the void, but to become so full of their reality that the void itself transforms into fullness. The mountain does not tremble because it is seen. It stands because it is whole. Be like the mountain unmoved by outer winds, shaped only by the quiet pulse of your own truth. And what a fear. It still comes, yes. But now it is a visitor, not a tenant. It arrives, but it does not unpack. Because your house, the house of your mind, your energy, your soul, is filled with something deeper than fear. It is filled with presence, with essence, with the invisible architecture of faith so profound that nothing false can linger for long. You begin to trust not just the light, but the shadow, not just the clarity, but the confusion. You understand that even the detours are holy, that even the silence is full of song. And that trust, it becomes your compass, your guide through the fog. You do not ask for the fog to lift, you become the light within it. And soon, others will notice, not because you tell them, but because you no longer need to. Your energy speaks, your peace teaches, your very being becomes a sermon in silence. They will ask you what changed, and you will smile, not with pride, but with reverence, because you know the truth. Nothing changed. You simply stopped waiting. You stopped postponing your joy until the world gave you a reason. You stopped demanding signs and became the sign. You stopped looking for miracles and began living as one. And in doing so, you did not abandon your humanity, you fulfilled it. Because to be truly human is to be divine in motion. And now, you move. You move not with urgency, but with grace. Not to escape, but to express. You are no longer striving to make things happen. You are allowing them to unfold through you. And this allowing is not passivity. It is the most courageous act of surrender. It is the yielding of the ego's grip and the opening of the soul's wings. It is the quiet inner agreement that says, I trust what is becoming through me more than I fear what has not yet arrived. Feel that. That sacred agreement, that unspoken vow between you and the infinite. It was never about begging the world to give you what you want. It was always about agreeing to be the vessel through which what wants to be birthed can arrive, not as a demand, but as a gift, a divine unfolding, sculpted not by the hands of fate, but by the vibration you choose to carry in this very breath. You become a living invitation, not to impress, but to embody. And embodiment is the final prayer. It is the prayer that does not ask, but affirms. It does not wish, it lives. When you become what you desire, you collapse the distance between yourself and the dream. The bridge dissolves because there is no longer a here and a there is only this presence, this knowing, this love. And in this space of divine being, you notice something beautiful begins to occur. The longing that once pulled at you begins to soften, not because you've lost the dream, but because you've merged with it. It no longer hurts to want it because you no longer feel separate from it. It lives in you now. It breathes with you. And in that merging, peace returns, not the fleeting kind that depends on outcomes, but the kind that simply is timeless, unshaken, whole. You become less concerned with when and more devoted to how you show up in each moment. You begin to see that time was never your enemy. Delay was never punishment. Every so-called pause was simply preparation for you to meet your own reflection without fear. The wish was not withheld. It was waiting for you to become still enough to receive it, not as a possession, but as an extension of who you already are. And so you walk the world with new eyes. You speak not to convince, but to offer presence. You listen not to respond, but to feel. The outcome no longer defines the moment presence does, and that presence makes everything holy. Even the most mundane becomes sacred under the gaze of a heart that has stopped striving and started surrendering. The rain is no longer an inconvenience, it is a blessing. The silence is no longer empty, it is filled with wisdom. Every delay, every detour, every uncertainty now a sacred invitation to lean deeper into trust. You see, when you live from the wish fulfilled, your life becomes a meditation, not in stillness alone, but in movement, in conversation, in breath. In every sacred yes, you offer to what is rather than what should be. You stop postponing joy for the arrival of the perfect moment, and instead, you become the moment. You stop waiting for signs and realize you are the sign, the evidence, the echo of the divine saying, see, it is already done. And here's the mystery. The more you dwell in that knowing, the more life conspires in your favor. Not because you demanded it, but because you aligned with it. The universe doesn't reward need. It responds to coherence, to wholeness, to the frequency of I am, not I hope to be. You radiate completion, and completion flows back to you in ways you never could have scripted. This is the quiet power of spiritual alignment. Not loud, not forceful, but absolute. You become the calm in the storm, the still point in the turning world. And people begin to feel it, not in your words, but in your being. Your life becomes less about getting and more about giving, not because you have to, but because you are full. And from fullness, service is not sacrifice, it is overflow. The wish fulfilled is not a possession, it is a state of consciousness, a resting place within, a knowing that precedes form and therefore is never shaken by its absence or presence. It is the unconditional yes you offer to life, not because it is perfect, but because you finally see that you are. And in that seeing, the search ends. Not with a bang, not with a finish line, but with a smile, with a breath, with a silent, unshakable knowing. I am already what I was waiting for. There is a moment imperceptible to the eye, but felt with the fullness of the heart, when the inner landscape becomes more real than the outer form. When the noise of becoming dissolves, and the soul no longer strains to achieve, but simply abides. You find yourself standing not on a path toward fulfillment, but in the radiant center of it. And there, without fanfare, without announcement, life begins to speak to you differently. Not as a taskmaster, not as an obstacle course, but as a mirror revealing not what you lack, but who you truly are. You begin to understand that manifestation is not about convincing life to give you what you want. It's about allowing yourself to receive what has always belonged to you. The law of the universe is not transaction, but reflection. Life reflects the vibration you hold, not the words you say. It listens to your silence more than your speech. It responds to your inner climate more faithfully than to your outer actions. So when you change your atmosphere from striving to serenity, from doubt to knowing, you shift the very soil from which your life is grown. This is why the wish fulfilled is not found, it is inhabited. It is not conjured through force, it is made manifest through frequency. And the frequency of fulfillment is not fantasy, it is the most grounded state of being there is. Because it is rooted in the eternal, not the temporary. It draws not from circumstance, but from essence. It speaks not of becoming more, but of returning to the truth that you were never less. And in this return, you reclaim something the world could never give you, your authority. Not the authority to control life, but to collaborate with it. Not the power to dominate, but the grace to align. You stop trying to manipulate outcomes and instead learn to harmonize with the silent intelligence that moves the tides and spins the stars. You become not a builder of destiny, but a partner with it. From this space, decisions arise differently. You no longer ask, will this get me there? Instead, you ask, is this a reflection of who I already am? You stop reacting to the world and begin responding from the soul. Each step becomes deliberate, not because you fear the unknown, but because you've made peace with it. You walk not in search, but in sacred participation. And the energy of your life begins to shift, subtly at first, like the early tremors of spring beneath frozen ground, then more clearly, more powerfully, until you begin to feel it in your bones. Something has changed. Not out there, in here. In the way you rise, in the way you speak, in the way you carry yourself, not as one waiting for approval, but as one who knows they are already whole. You understand now that the outer world is not the place where fulfillment begins, it is the place where it is revealed. And so you stop waiting for signs, you stop tracking timelines, you stop measuring your worth by the feedback of circumstance. Because you know if it is in you, it is already on its way to you. If you feel it deeply, it is not imagination, it is invitation. It is the soul's way of saying, yes, this is real. Yes, this is yours. Now live as if it already is. And you do, not to prove a point, not to win the race, but because you can no longer deny what you've remembered, that your being is not a preparation for something greater. Your being is the something greater, and everything else is simply catching up to that truth. And now you arrive not to a place, but to a presence. Not to a conclusion, but to a beginning so quiet it almost slips past unnoticed. You arrive to the breath that no longer needs to be chased, to the stillness that no longer needs to be earned. You arrive to yourself, not the self you were taught to perfect, but the one you've always been underneath the layers of trying, proving, explaining. The self that has waited patiently behind every doubt, every ache, every whispered question of am I enough, to which the answer has always been, you are more than enough. You are it. And as this truth ripens within you, the seeking softens. Not because you've given up, but because you've finally come home. You no longer live from hope, you live from trust. Not the fragile trust that depends on outcomes, but the unshakable trust that arises when you know you and the divine are not separate. That what you have longed for was never lost, it was simply unexpressed. And now, with open hands and a soft gaze, you allow it to move through you, not as wishful thinking, but as sacred embodiment. You begin to bless everything, not in ritual, but in rhythm. The way your eyes meet the light each morning becomes a blessing. The way you stand in your own presence without apology becomes holy. You are no longer here to get life right. You are here to live it true. You are no longer here to chase love. You are here to be it in every step, in every breath, in every choice, born from alignment rather than fear. And this alignment, it speaks a language only the soul can hear. It says, walk slowly but walk sure, speak gently but speak truth. Rest often, not out of exhaustion, but because stillness is sacred. Let yourself be moved by beauty without asking why. Let yourself cry without needing to explain. Let yourself love without needing to possess. This is the rhythm of one who remembers. This is the path of the wish fulfilled, not paved with striving, but lit with surrender. Even now, as these words meet you, feel the quiet truth behind them. There is nothing left to seek, only something to unveil. The joy you imagined is already your nature. The peace you craved is your resting state. The love you looked for is the very substance of your being. You have never been far. You have only been disguised. And now the disguise falls away. Not with struggle, but with grace. You no longer wear the mask of not enough. You no longer shrink into the illusion of unworthiness. You stand just as you are, a soul remembering its shape, a spirit returning to its light, a being no longer delayed by the myth of someday. There is no someday. There is only this moment alive, luminous, whole. So breathe it in, not as one who needs more, but as one who finally realizes this is the more, this breath, this presence, this sacred, ordinary now. And from this now, life will continue to unfold, not because you force it, but because you've aligned with the river of what already is. You are not at the mercy of life's waves. You are the ocean from which they rise. So go, not to change yourself, but to express yourself. Go, not to find your worth, but to honor it. Go, not to chase your dream, but to remember. The dream is already alive within you. Live now from that remembrance, live from the wish fulfilled, and be free. There is a power that lives within you, not in your titles, not in your history, not in the image reflected back at you from the world, but in the quiet sanctuary behind your thoughts, beneath your breath, between your heartbeats. That place, though often overlooked, is the origin of all miracles. It is where belief is not manufactured, but remembered. It is where the mind bows to the soul, and where the sacred art of training your thoughts begins not with control, but with surrender. You were not born with doubt in your heart. You were born with light in your eyes and a song in your spirit that sang of infinite possibility. The hesitation, the fear, the unworthiness, these are not your truths. They are shadows cast by a mind that forgot its source. And the mind, beautiful and wild as it may be, is but a servant, a mirror, a field. It will reflect back whatever seed you plant. If you sow limitation, it will show you walls. If you sow faith, it will part the seas. Training your mind to believe is not about painting over your fears with forced positivity. It is about returning to the wellspring of truth that has never left you. It is about remembering again and again that you are not your thoughts, you are the awareness beneath them. And in that awareness, you are limitless. This is not the belief born of intellect or logic. This is not the shallow confidence that rises and falls with circumstances. This is the knowing that lives in your bones, the sacred trust that the same force that orchestrates galaxies also orchestrates your life, that your desires are not random, they are the whispers of divine intention trying to rise through you. The mind does not create truth. It learns to attune to it. It becomes the receiver of what the soul has always known. And yet, how easily we forget, how quickly we trade our divine inheritance for the approval of the world, for the safety of smallness, for the illusion of control. The world taught you to be realistic, but realism, when rooted in fear, is just another word for resignation. Realism that denies your divinity is not realism, it is spiritual amnesia. To train the mind to believe is to walk through this world with eyes that see beyond appearances. It is to hear impossible and feel a soft smile rise in your chest. It is to live in alignment with a truth that may not yet be visible, but is already vibrationally real. You were not placed here to worship the seen. You were born to bring the unseen into form. Let the doubting voice come, but do not give it the throne. Watch it, bless it, but do not become it. That voice is not the enemy. It is the old self trying to protect you with fear. It is the echo of wounds that mistook safety for silence and comfort for hiding. But you are no longer here to hide. You are here to expand. There is a universe inside of you waiting to be believed in, a reservoir of strength, vision, courage, and clarity that does not come from trying harder. It comes from letting go. Letting go of the lie that you are separate from your source. Letting go of the idea that you must earn your worth. Letting go of the belief that the mind must have all the answers before you take the first step. Belief is a bridge. It does not guarantee the path will be easy, but it guarantees you will no longer walk it alone. Because when you believe from the soul, the entire universe rises to meet you. Doors you didn't see before begin to open. People you've never met feel drawn to your presence. Circumstances shift not because you forced them, but because you became a magnet for the frequency of your own truth. You were not made to live in doubt. You were not born to shrink yourself to fit into the fear of those who forgot their light. You are here to remember. You are here to remind the world, through the sheer clarity of your being, that belief is not fantasy, it is the language of creation. And the moment you choose to believe in what you cannot yet see, you begin to give it life. Let the mind be trained not by force, but by devotion. Feed it daily with truth. Bathe it in silence. Ground it in the present. Speak to it with love. And when it strays, as it will gently return it home, again and again. This is the sacred discipline of the awakened soul. To believe not because the world tells you to, but because your spirit refuses not to. You are not just learning to believe in yourself, you are remembering that you are the very breath of God in motion. And when you remember this, belief is no longer something you do, it becomes something you are. You are not here to convince yourself of miracles, you are here to recognize that you already are one. You were not summoned into existence to doubt your light, but to allow it to shine so fully that others remember theirs in your presence. The training of your mind to believe is not a conquest, it is a return to what you've always known before the noise, before the wound, before the forgetting. Each time you doubt your worth, you are momentarily hypnotized by the world's illusion that value must be proven, but the soul knows better. The soul remembers the moment before time, where nothing was missing, where nothing was wrong, where everything simply was. And that stillness, that unshakable stillness, is still within you. You don't have to create it, you only have to remember that you never left it. Belief is not the voice that shouts the loudest, it is the whisper that persists when all others fade. It is the soft voice that says, keep going, not because you are guaranteed the outcome you want, but because you trust the outcome that serves your awakening. Your job is not to micromanage the universe, but to align yourself so deeply with truth that your very presence becomes a prayer. When you train your mind to believe, you no longer measure your life by what is seen. You begin to feel life through resonance. You stop asking, does this make sense? And start asking, does this feel true? Because the mind will always want evidence, but the soul moves by frequency. The mind analyzes, the soul knows. And when that knowing begins to guide you, you step into a rhythm that transcends control. You move with life instead of resisting it. You trust the detours. You honor the pauses. You stop needing to understand every step, because belief has taught you that peace is not the absence of questions, it is the presence of trust. There is a deeper intelligence guiding your life. It is the same intelligence that turns caterpillars into butterflies, seeds into forests, darkness into dawn. And that intelligence has never abandoned you. It breathes you, it heals you in your sleep, it nudges you through intuition, and when you finally surrender the need to figure it all out, you begin to feel it again, not as an idea, but as a living current moving through every breath. Let your faith become a sanctuary where doubt can rest without shame. Let belief be not a dogma, but a dance, a movement between what is and what can be. When the mind is trained in truth, it no longer wages war with reality. It becomes an instrument of alignment. And from that alignment, you speak not from fear, but from knowing. You act not from pressure, but from presence. You live not to get somewhere, but to be fully here. To train the mind to believe is not to trick yourself into fantasy. It is to align your thoughts with the deepest laws of the universe, laws that say you are not separate from life, but an expression of it, that what you are seeking is seeking you, that your desires are not random, but the seeds of your becoming, placed within you by the same source that created stars. And so you no longer ask, is it possible? You ask, am I willing? Willing to trust what you cannot yet see, willing to speak life into your dreams, even when the world tells you to be realistic. Willing to be so in love with truth that you'd rather fail in authenticity than succeed in pretense. Because the mind that is trained in belief does not need the world to understand. It does not need applause to feel worthy. It does not chase validation, for it has found its sanctuary within. That mind becomes quiet not from force, but from reverence. It listens, it receives. It follows the invisible thread of joy and watches miracles bloom in the space where fear used to live. And you are ready for this. Not because you've mastered the path, but because you've heard the call. And the call is not to become more, it is to shed what is not you, so what has always been true can finally lead. Let the training continue, not with strain, but with stillness. Not with struggle, but with surrender. And let every breath be a reminder, you are not here to survive the world's disbelief. You are here to awaken the world by living what you believe. Training your mind to believe is not about reciting mantras to silence your fear. It is about becoming so rooted in truth that fear forgets how to speak. It is about creating such intimacy with the divine that disbelief becomes a foreign tongue your soul no longer understands. You see, belief is not the arrival at certainty, it is the surrender into mystery. It is the quiet assurance that even when your eyes cannot see the light, your heart still knows the sun will rise. There is an ocean of power within you, and belief is the vessel that allows you to cross it. Without it, you wander the shores of your own potential, watching ships sail off into the horizon of other people's dreams, all the while forgetting that the wind, the tide, the compass, they are already inside you. You are not missing the tools. You are only waiting to remember the captain. And what a remembering it is. Do you recall what it felt like to believe when you were a child, when the world was still enchanted? When you trusted the stars had something to say, when every shadow held a story, and the whisper of the wind felt like it carried messages meant only for you? That wasn't naivety, that was purity. That was unfiltered connection to the unseen, a mind not yet colonized by doubt, a heart still fluent in the language of wonder. Belief is a return to that sacred dialect. It is not childish, it is holy. And in this sacred return, your mind begins to unlearn what the world taught it about limitation. It begins to stretch like morning light across a quiet lake. It stops rehearsing the stories of failure and begins remembering the symphony of the soul. You are not your doubts. You are not your wounds. You are not the voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" That voice is a relic, a ghost of fear passed down from others who forgot their own light. And you, radiant soul, are here to break that inheritance. You are here to stand in your being so completely that even your shadow begins to shimmer with truth. Let your mind be trained not through pressure, but through presence, through waking each day and choosing again and again to believe not in what you see, but in what you feel beneath the surface. The mind will scream for proof. The soul will whisper trust. And in that whisper lives all the power of the cosmos. The Tao Te Ching tells us, do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? This is the art of belief, not frantic movement, but sacred stillness, not chasing, but aligning. You do not force the flower to bloom. You prepare the soil, you offer the sun, you water it with love. And then, with sacred patience, you trust that life knows how to unfold. So it is with your becoming. Your mind, when left untrained, will race to the future, drag you into the past, flood you with imagined disasters. But when trained to believe, it becomes a sanctuary. It becomes the quiet temple where your dreams come to kneel, not in desperation, but in reverence. It becomes the still space through which the divine voice can speak clearly, without distortion. And oh, how clearly it speaks. It says, you are enough. Not tomorrow, not when they love you, not when the numbers align, but now, here, in this ordinary, sacred, miraculous now. Belief is not the denial of your humanity, it is the exaltation of it. It does not ask you to become invincible, it asks you to become real, to look fear in the eyes and walk anyway, to stand on the edge of what you've known and take the step that says, even if I fall, I trust the ground will rise to meet me, because it always does. The universe is not punishing you, it is responding to your vibration. Your frequency is the signal. Your belief is the transmitter. When you shift from fear to faith, from control to surrender, from hesitation to holy yes, life reorganizes itself to mirror your new state. It cannot not. This is not magic. This is metaphysics. This is spiritual law just as certain as gravity. What you hold within, you draw without. What you believe, you become. What you honor, expands. And so the mind must become a sacred gardener, planting seeds not of what is probable, but of what is aligned with your highest knowing. Do not water your doubts. Do not prune your fears. Do not decorate the cage of disbelief and call it home. You are not meant to live behind bars made of other people's projections. You are meant to soar freely, wildly, with the wind of spirit in your wings and the fire of purpose in your chest. And when you fall, and you will let it be part of the rising. Let every stumble be sacred. Let every moment of forgetting be a deeper invitation to remember. The mind, like a child, must be guided gently but firmly back to truth. Do not scold it. Do not shame it. Teach it. Love it. Show it again and again that the path of belief is safer than the armor of doubt. You are safe here. You are safe in your own becoming. You are safe to trust the unseen. You are safe to walk by faith and not by sight. Jesus said, according to your faith, it is done unto you. Not according to your intellect, not according to your resume, but according to your faith, your ability to hold the vibration of truth, even when your eyes see evidence to the contrary. This is the spiritual athlete's path. Not a sprint, but a discipline. Not a doctrine, but a devotion. To train your mind to believe is to become a vessel so open, so ready, so surrendered, that life itself rushes in to fill you, not with noise, but with knowing. And when it does, you will no longer need to fight for your place. You will no longer need to convince or strive or compete. You will walk into every room as if you belong, not because you've been invited, but because you remember that your very being is the invitation. The divine has never needed permission to show up through you. Let this be the moment you say yes, not just in thought, but in frequency. Let your belief become a vibration that radiates through your cells. Let your posture shift. Let your gaze soften. Let your breath deepen. This is the body of belief, not rigid, but rooted, not tense, but alive. Feel the shift. You are not alone in this work. Every soul who has ever awakened has walked this path before you. The mystics, the sages, the prophets, the poets, all of them trained their minds not to follow the world, but to follow the divine thread that wove through their hearts, and now it weaves through yours. Can you feel it? That sacred pulse, that knowing without explanation, that still small voice rising now like incense from the altar of your being. It says you are here to remember. You are here to believe, not in a version of yourself shaped by fear, but in the you that God never stopped dreaming. There is a sacred rhythm beneath all things, a current that carries the faithful even when the path is unclear, even when the winds howl with the voices of old doubts. To train your mind to believe is to drop your anchor in that current, to trust that even when you are not steering, you are being guided, that the very act of believing is not a task, but a homecoming, and how exquisite the home you are returning to. It is not made of walls or timelines or perfection. It is not found in external mastery. It is built of presence, of trust, of the quiet knowing that you are not the one doing the believing. You are the belief itself. You are the vision dreaming itself awake. You are not trying to find faith. You are the frequency of faith, learning to recognize its own reflection. Every step you've taken, even the ones that felt like detours, were part of the choreography. There is nothing wasted in the divine economy. The heartbreak, the delays, the long nights of questioning, all of it was preparing you, softening you, making you ready to carry the weight of your own light. The world will always offer you reasons to doubt. It will shout statistics, remind you of your past, echo the limitations of others. But you are not here to repeat patterns. You are here to break them. You are not here to collect reasons why you can't. You are here to live as the exception that proves the truth. And the truth is this: the moment you believe differently, the world begins to respond differently. Not because the external changes instantly, but because your energy, the silent language beneath all things, has shifted. You no longer walk as someone begging life for permission. You walk as someone in partnership with it. That is the miracle. To stand rooted in uncertainty and still say, I trust. To walk through a storm and still feel warmth on your skin. To see the mountain ahead and know the strength is not in your legs, but in your soul. The mind may falter, but your being knows the way. And that knowing, soft, steady, unshakable, is belief. Let it live in you now. Let it move through your breath, through the way you enter a room, through the kindness in your eyes. Belief is not only what you say in your quiet prayers, it is how you show up when no one is watching. It is the frequency you carry into your relationships, your choices, your silences. It is the sacred yes humming beneath every "I'm not sure." Do not wait until you are certain. Begin with what you feel. Begin with the flicker of warmth in your chest when you consider the possibility of more. Begin with the gentle ache that says there must be something deeper. That ache is not your weakness. It is your invitation. It is the soul knocking gently, asking, "Will you let me lead now?" And when you say yes not once, but again and again, you begin to live from the inside out, no longer measuring your worth by results, no longer timing your joy by outcomes. You begin to feel the sacred in the ordinary. You begin to realize that the miracle was never the destination, it was the decision to believe despite not knowing how. You do not have to fake it. You only have to allow the belief to rise like dawn through the cracks of your old narratives. Let it illuminate every story that told you you're not ready, you're too late, you're not enough. And let it replace those voices with something ancient and true. You are the one. You've always been the one. Now is the time. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. This is not self-inflation. It is self-realization. You are not claiming to be above anyone. You are reclaiming what has always been yours, your divine identity, your birthright to walk in faith. Because you were not sent here to live a small life. You were not sent here to make yourself palatable to the fears of others. You were sent here to radiate, to stand as a beacon of what is possible when one being says, "I believe, not because I see, but because I am seen by something greater than me." And you are. You are seen. You are held. You are guided. And every time you forget, life offers you another reminder, a feather in your path, a stranger's smile, a moment of stillness so profound that time itself seems to pause and say, "Remember." So pause now, beloved soul. Breathe. Place your hand on your heart, not to calm it, but to commune with it. Feel the pulse beneath your skin. That rhythm is not random. It is the signature of your sacred design. It is the echo of Source singing through your body. It is the truth that no matter what the mind says, life believes in you. Now meet it with your own belief. Let the training continue, not as effort, but as devotion. Let your every thought become an offering. Let your silence become prayer. Let your being become the evidence of what belief can do when it is no longer resisted, but welcomed home. And from this place, everything changes. You were not created to merely survive. You were not spoken into being to endlessly wrestle with your mind or live at the mercy of your circumstances. You were created to remember, to awaken to the knowing that the mind is not your master, but your instrument. And belief is the music it was made to play. But the world, in its forgetfulness, taught your mind to hum a different tune. It taught you to repeat the chorus of not enough, to sing the lyrics of limitation, to echo the refrain of fear. And so your mind, untrained and untethered, began to follow the path of least resistance, clinging to what is familiar, even if it is false, grasping at what is predictable, even if it is painful. But there comes a moment sacred and still when the soul can no longer pretend, when the ache of disconnection becomes louder than the fear of change, when something ancient within you whispers, "This is not who you are. This is not why you came." And in that whisper lies the beginning of your liberation. Belief is the invitation to come home. It is the golden thread that leads you out of the labyrinth of your old identity. It does not yell. It does not demand. It simply waits for your willingness, for your quiet yes, for your sacred surrender. You do not need to know how. You only need to be willing. Willing to pause, willing to feel, willing to question every voice that tells you you are small. That willingness is the crack in the armor where the light pours in. That willingness is enough. You have been taught to worship evidence. But what if the evidence you've been gathering is only a reflection of your old belief? What if the proof you cling to is not truth, but repetition? What if the world around you is not the limit, but the mirror? Change the mirror, and the reflection changes. The moment you begin to believe in what the eye cannot see, the universe responds. Not because it is reacting to your will, but because it has always been responding to your vibration. You are not convincing life to support you. You are remembering that it always has. Look around. The trees do not negotiate with gravity. The sun does not doubt its own rising. The ocean does not ask permission to be vast. They trust the law. They live in rhythm with something deeper. And so must you. You are not separate from nature. You are not an accident wrapped in skin. You are the sacred encoded into form. And belief is how you align with that sacredness. Not by effort, but by recognition. Not by striving, but by surrender. Surrender the old story, the one that says you're too late, too flawed, too broken. That story was never yours. It was handed to you by a world that profits from your doubt. And now, gently but firmly, it is time to set it down. You do not need to fight it. You need only stop feeding it. Stop rehearsing the limitations. Stop repeating the fear. Stop trying to belong in rooms that dim your light just to feel comfortable. Instead, listen. Listen to the quiet frequency beneath the noise. Listen to the way your body softens when you speak your truth. Listen to the way your heart pulses stronger when you imagine the life you came here to live. That is the compass. That is the divine guidance. The mind was always meant to serve. And so you train it not with rigidity, but with reverence. You don't wrestle your thoughts into submission. You bathe them in presence. You return again and again to the breath, to the now, to the sacred hum that says, I am held. And when the doubts rise, as they will, you greet them not as enemies, but as guests. You say, thank you for trying to protect me, but I no longer build my house in fear. Let that be your new discipline. Not to control every thought, but to choose which ones you dwell in, which ones you amplify, which ones you allow to shape your energy. Because your energy is your offering. It is the silent sermon you preach with every breath. And when it is grounded in belief, true belief, soul belief, it becomes magnetic. People may not understand it. They may question you, but they will feel you. They will feel your stillness in the storm, your softness in the noise, your power in your peace. This is what it means to be trained in truth. Not to become invulnerable, but to become transparent to the divine. To be so open, so clear, so attuned that the light shines through you without resistance. You become the lamp, not the source of the fire, but its faithful keeper. And in that light, everything changes. Not instantly, not all at once, but deeply, truly, irrevocably. The people you attract shift. The choices you make align. The doors you knock on open, not because of force, but because of flow. Not because you manipulated the system, but because you remembered how it works. You are not here to hustle for your worth. You are here to embody your truth. You are not here to perform for love. You are here to become the presence of it. And belief, true belief, is the soil in which all of this grows. Tend to it daily, not with pressure, but with devotion. Speak kindly to your mind. Be gentle with your doubts. Be patient with your unfolding. You are not late. You are not lost. You are exactly where the next layer of truth is ready to reveal itself. You are not a mistake trying to become something better. You are a miracle remembering what has always been. And belief is how that remembering takes root. There comes a moment in the path of all awakening souls when the seeking quiets and the striving exhales, when the questions no longer demand answers, but simply dissolve into presence. And it is here, in this spacious awareness, that belief becomes not something you do, but something you are. The mind, once unruly, once terrified of the unknown, has now been shown the truth, that it is not alone, not separate, not in charge. It is a beloved servant to a deeper intelligence. It does not need to control the current, it only needs to float. It does not need to have it all figured out, it only needs to trust the river it flows in. This is not weakness, this is not passivity, this is power. Power born of alignment, of surrender, of harmony with the unseen rhythms of life. This is what the masters meant when they spoke of faith that moves mountains, not a loud, boisterous faith, but a quiet, steady one. A faith that rests in the knowing that what is meant for you cannot miss you, and what is not meant for you cannot stay. The trained mind no longer panics in the pauses. It no longer fears the unknown. It meets each moment as sacred. It lets go of timelines. It releases comparison. It ceases to grasp at life like a drowning man and begins to float like one who trusts the sea. There is no need to rush, no need to force. You are already what you've been trying to become. The soil has been prepared. The roots are deep. The bloom is inevitable. And the world may still swirl in its chaos. It may still forget its divinity. It may still try to seduce you into fear. But you will remain anchored in the invisible.